Hi there, it's Kelly. Today I wanted to chat a little bit about something that makes a huge difference in your watercolor painting, even though a lot of beginners don't even know what's happening, and that is paper sizing. And just for fun, I'm also going to try out a brand new set of paints from Kuretake, so I'm going to share my first impressions of those too. So let's dive in. So, first of all, if you are wondering what sizing even means, you are not alone. When we talk about sizing in watercolor paper, we are talking about how the paper is treated to control how much water and paint it absorbs. Now, there are usually two types. There is what they call internal sizing, that is mixed right into the paper pulp. And then there is external sizing, which is brushed onto the surface after the sheet has been made. Basically, sizing acts like an invisible shield on your paper, if you want to think of it that way. It controls whether that paint is going to sit nicely on top or is it going to disappear deep into the fibers. So, why does sizing matter? Well, here's the simple version. More sizing is going to equal more control, brighter colors, and it's going to give you those crisper edges. However, less sizing, that is going to equal paint that's going to sink in fast. The colors are going to dry softer, and those edges are going to feather out. So if you are struggling with muddy colors, maybe you are losing detail, sometimes it's just not you, it's the paper. So let's talk about arches versus Canson extra large. This is a quick comparison, and this is what I am using in this demo. The arches watercolor paper, which is not what I'm using here, I'm using the Canson. But arches is what I usually use, and it has both internal and external sizing. So that makes it super resistant to water. Paint just kind of sits on top for a while, and that's going to give you a little bit of time to blend more smoothly. It's also going to give you the opportunity to lift the paint if you need to, and glaze over dried layers without messing things up. It feels like slicker when it's wet, which is perfect for like wet on wet techniques. If you want vibrant colors and nice clean edges, Arches is amazing. It's also more forgiving if you like to layer or rework parts of your painting. However, on the flip side, let's talk about the Canson extra large watercolor paper. That only has internal sizing, so there's no surface sizing at all. And that's going to mean the paint soaks right in. It does dry quicker, and the blending can be a little tricky because your brush marks kind of lock into place really fast. And you also might notice the colors are drying softer, or those edges, again, are feathering out a little bit more. And if you overwork it, well, the paper can start to pill, which nobody wants to see that. Canson is still great for practice pieces. It's great for fast sketches, flat washes, where you don't need a lot of blending time. However, you can use a product called Oxgall, and I do have a video that explains what that is and how you can use it with less expensive paper, and it can help you in a pinch. And let me know in the comments if you've used Oxgall liquid before and what you thought of it. All right, so let's talk about my first impressions of Kuretake watercolors. On to the fun stuff, right? I recently got a set of the Kuretake watercolors from my mom for my birthday, and oh my gosh, they are gorgeous. So here's what stood out to me right away. First of all, the colors are super and they're very vibrant, probably even more than I expected. I do love my Rosa Gallery paints, which I am very partial to, and you've seen me use those in a ton of my art demos. But these have a creamy texture as well, like the Rosa do, and they're also thicker. They activate really easy with just a bit of water. And again, that reminds me a lot of the Rosa paints. The pigments are heavier, so they do sit beautifully on top of sized paper like Arches. But when I use them on Canson, they still look nice, but they did sink in a little bit more. So the blending wasn't quite as easy on that. One thing to note, the Kuretake watercolors feel slightly more opaque than my usual transparent paints. And that's not a bad thing. but it does mean layering behaves a little bit differently, and it's just something to play around with. And of course, it's going to depend on your style. The Rosa paints that I usually use are a little bit more transparent. They still have that creaminess to them and that heavy pigment, but they don't have these colors. And at least I haven't seen these colors yet. So I do absolutely love the colors. The pans, however, are very small. I should say the pans are good size, but the pans are not filled completely. So I do wish they would have filled the pans up a little bit more. However, for the price point, I think it was like $32 for these. It really, you get what you pay for. But if they do offer a set, so if you're listening, Kuretake, maybe you have a set that fills them up a little bit more. I do like the pans though, because once this is gone, I can reuse those pans in other places. So that's a nice thing. And they do come in a nice little box. So here's a quick recap. If you take anything away from today, it's this: arches. If you're in France, arches. It has more control, brighter colors, easier layering. I love arches. I've been using that since I started painting. My mom, that's what she would buy. She would buy the full sheets. We cut them up. And so I've always used them. Recently, because I teach classes and people want a little bit less expensive paper. So I've been testing out a bunch of other papers like Canson, Legion paper, and others. I still find my favorite is Arches. And for those practice pieces, still the Strathmore watercolor cards. I just cut them in half, the 5x7s, and they make for a perfect quick, easy demo. So that's what I teach with all my classes too, especially if I'm doing my live classes. Canson is more absorbent, better for fast sketches and practice, I think. It was perfect for that. And the Kuretake watercolors, I think they are bold. I love the juicy colors and that creamy feel. And the color palette is impeccable, so much fun, and very popular with a lot of the styles and stuff that people are using nowadays. And they go together so nicely. They did a really nice job putting the color palette together. So your paper and your paints are like partners. Don't forget that. If you know how each one behaves, then you are going to get way better results without feeling frustrated. For April's challenge, I only did 3 this week, and you can see the full tutorial up on my Patreon channel. If you are a member, go over there and enjoy it. I had a lot of fun with these colors. And if you love these loose florals, check out this video next. It's actually a playlist where I did 7 of them in 1 week in April. So it was an April challenge. I'd love to have you on there. And if you feel like you want to dive in a little bit more for these looser florals, I am offering a 25% off of my 7 Days to Lose Florals course, where we go really in depth and do tons of practice. There is many lessons in that one. And if you use the coupon code down below, you can get 25% off that until Saturday. All right, you guys, enjoy, and don't forget to watch these next. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.